I don't know why, but this time around, when Professor Duvenage, Andre Duvenage of the University of Northwest, spoke about South Africa being a mafia state, somehow it just brought this reality home. You and I know that indeed we qualify as a mafia state, and thanks to the ANC. Professor Andre Duvenage explained a mafia state as a country wherein it is impossible to distinguish between a politician and a criminal. Now take a minute and see how many leaders in our political space fit the bill. How many can you come up with? Just a brief look at the news headlines in South Africa gives you a picture of a country that is on the edge. And I don't mean to create unnecessary panic. I want to urge you not to be complacent. I want South Africans to make sure that all hands are on deck so that we fight for the future of our country. So that we make sure that our children, our grandchildren, have got somewhere to call home. We are on the edge because if you look at police killings, the 2 policemen who were killed by undocumented migrants, if you look at our porous borders, and these killings are not in any way separated from the problem of uncontrolled immigration. If you look at corruption scandals that continuously flood the zone in our country, if you look at the power cuts, the water shortages, the growing unemployment and increasing crime and lawlessness, you can't help but feel and acknowledge that we are a country that is living on the edge. Now, in this commentary, I'm going to use the analogy of SA Incorporated, South Africa as a business. I'm going to use our business model, our country model, to demonstrate to you how fast we are descending into the abyss. I want to demonstrate to you that our model as it is unsustainable. We are fast descending into a failed state where visionary leadership has been replaced by moral bankruptcy. We are living on the edge where a constitutional idealism clashes with economic reality on the ground. I'll explain to you what I mean. We are living on the edge where uncontrolled immigration is accelerating the scarcity of resources and the depletion of resources and pitting South Africans against fellow Africans because of the mismanagement. Let me tell you, the problem of immigration, like many other things, can simply be attributed to the mismanagement of this country by this government. It's not necessarily an issue of incompetence. It is just part of the mismanagement, just like you can see with everything that is not working. We have got a leadership whose attention and focus are divided. They are distracted. They've lost focus. They are not looking, and they are not busy with the things that they are supposed to be busy with. I'll tell you what they are busy with. Now, if we do not act with urgency, South Africa, national bankruptcy is inevitable. And I will demonstrate to you when I dive deep into these issues. Now, before I venture into the business model of South Africa, I just want to get some foundational topics out of the way. These foundational topics include the vision for the country. Let me juxtapose South Africa and Canada to illustrate to you what I mean by lack of vision. There's a vacuum at the top. There's no clear vision coming out from the very top of South African leadership. Now, when Trump started attacking Canada, one Canadian leader, McCartney, who is now the Prime Minister of Canada, McCartney responded with a clear vision for Canada that catapulted him into the prime ministerial position. The vision that he was advocating for was very simple. He just said, we need to build Canada strong. Canada must become an energy superpower. That is a very simple vision. If you ask me about the vision, South Africa's vision, let me tell you, if you go around the road, if you go take school pupils and ask them about the vision for South Africa, you won't find it. But here is I'm South African, but I can remember the vision of Canada off the heart because it is being communicated effectively by a credible leader. Carney is building Canada strong. And he has rallied the nation around the vision to become an energy superpower. And this vision that McCartney articulated is based on the conviction that Canada can give to itself more than what America, their lifelong partner, who has turned against them. Canada can give it to self much more than America can take away from them. That is the conviction. That is the battle cry that Kanye has introduced into the discourse. And Canada is going to do this by making sure that they strengthen partnerships between provincial economies, because they use the federal systems where the provinces are semi-autonomous and they haven't been working together. They haven't been working in an integrated manner. Now, Canada is building Canada strong. Kanye is building Canada strong by identifying key national building projects that Canada is going to build using Canadian material, Canadian energy, and Canadian labor. At the same time, they want to diversify the economy away from USA. They will still do business with the US, but they want to make their economy more resilient by diversifying and not put their eggs in one basket. And they are also strengthening the military to build Canadian national sovereignty. Kanye is not just shouting slogans like our Fikile Mbalula, like our president when he says we cannot be bullied. No, South Africa, don't be misinformed. South Africans, let not be gaslighted. You cannot build national sovereignty when you are stealing from your country. You cannot build national sovereignty when you have mismanaged the South African National Defence Force into a laughingstock. They've destroyed our defense force into obscurity. A defense force that today cannot stand about the M23 rebels. But this is a country whose leaders want to talk big. They want to appear as for a formidable force internationally, whilst they cannot fix potholes here at home, whilst they cannot secure the borders. They want to prosecute international court cases, whilst they are failing to jail murderers here in South Africa, whilst they are failing to prosecute state captured criminals. So something is wrong with our country. We're getting our priorities wrong. We're delusional. And it's either deliberate or it's just out of ignorance and incompetence. Now, Makani is building his country by leveraging his credibility. Let me tell you something, South Africa. Let's not deceive ourselves. Credibility, the credibility of leaders, a leader matters. It's not just words, nice words. Political rhetoric, ideological rhetoric does not build a country. It is integrity, it is honesty, it is competence, it is commitment to the country, it is focus and the love for your country and people that builds a country. Not political rhetoric from Balula telling Trump he must go to hell, but on the sly you go and beg him and beg him to make a trade deal with you. Treat you like a subordinate. Treat you in a shabby way. But you stand before the nation and say, this is the kind of unserious leadership that we have. That doesn't understand what they want, what they are doing. I'm not against us building national sovereignty. I want it to be done in truth, in substance, not in political rhetoric. Build the military. Stop stealing from the South African economy. Be honest with South African people. Stop entertaining criminal syndicates. That's how you'll build national sovereignty. You cannot build national sovereignty without leverage. Trump is using leverage. He can afford to do this because they've got a strong economy. So you cannot just use political rhetoric. This is what is fooling South African voters. Don't listen to political rhetoric. Look at the substance. Look at the character of a leader. Look at what they've built in the past, what they've achieved, what they're able to do. That is what is going to build the country, not political rhetoric and gaslighting. Now, Makani used his credibility. He has served as a central banker in 3 countries. I mean, he holds that record. No other central banker can read that from his or her CV. Makani has that. He has got a solid, a stellar track record. A man of character, a man of focus. He's not just speaking words. He is building substance. He used that to rally the entire and unite the entire nation, including the opposition conservatives, behind the vision that I've just talked about. Here in South Africa, we lack this kind of clarity of vision with our leaders. Like I'm telling you, I honestly can't tell you what our vision is. We don't have something like South Africa wants to become $1 trillion economy by 2040 or 2050. No tangible, we don't have a tangible mineral beneficiary strategy. It's just a PR exercise. It's something for the press conferences and just to demonstrate, to play with words. But in essence, we are not doing it. We are taking our minerals and exporting them overseas. In other words, we are exporting factories. We are exporting jobs for our youth. And this is uncalled for. And what is the result of this lack of visionary leadership? the vacuum at the top. It is policy paralysis and a population that is disillusioned by empty promises. Now, I turn to the elephant in the room. Our values. Our values as a nation are the values of our political leadership. The recent expose by Lieutenant General Ntlanhla Mkhwanazi, the IDT corruption and bribery case involving Tebogo Malaka, the Deputy President Paul Mashatile's extravagant lifestyle point to a nation that has lost its soul. This points to a nation that has surrendered to the god of materialism. And we have thrown the Batupili principle. We have reduced it to the back burner. It rings hollow when we talk about Batupili. When the president talks about fighting corruption, it's laughable. When he talks about Batupili, it's so unbelievable. Violence against women and children indicate how much we have lost our moral compass as a nation. We have got a woke curriculum that supercharges teenage pregnancy, whilst our welfare system rewards it with a child support grant. That is the nation that we have become because of the corruption of the soul of the nation. What have we done? Our problems gives you this impression that there is something deeper within the soul of nation that has gone wrong. What have we done? What is the source of political power of our leaders? Have we bowed down to dark forces? You remember the old verse, if you bow down to me, I'll give you all these kingdoms and wealth. Have we done that perhaps? Is it that which is just making a mess of our country, a potentially great country? Have we bowed down to dark forces to fall into this kind of mess that we are in? Speaking about values, we've got an education system. Where is the education system? That's what I want to say. We have got an education system that is failing to produce a model citizen. A citizen who can exercise personal responsibility. A citizen who doesn't throw around litter. A citizen who doesn't vandalize public infrastructure. A citizen who doesn't sell off family silver, IDs, to foreigners. What has happened to our soul? I'm talking about an education system that is able to mold a citizen who can make a positive contribution to our country, to the growth and development of our country, instead of a citizen who's always wanting to take from our country. Instead of asking themselves what they can do for the country. I want to turn to leadership. We are a nation on autopilot. It is not unusual for leaders with access to intelligence resources, leaders who receive intelligent briefings to express shock when their attention is drawn to failures in the provision of municipal services and municipal infrastructure like you have at the COJ, City of Johannesburg. A president coming up and expressing shock. I mean, I've got no words for that. What does it say? It is my contention that the biggest problem with our leadership is not incompetence. However, it is a loss of focus. We have got leaders who have got divided attention, who have got leaders who are serving two masters. They have divided loyalty that is split between serving the nation and self-enrichment. They are bowing down. They have bowed down to the God of materialism. And you can't serve two masters, as the Bible says. We have a leadership that is more focused on self-enrichment through tenders than service delivery. They are more preoccupied by self-enrichment than issues that concern you and me. This is a leadership that when pretending, just as they are pretending to be leading the nation, they are co-managing a shadow state, a criminal syndicate that is extracting and looting national resources through tenders and outright theft of money. They are stealing resources that most of our vulnerable citizens whose life depend on. And they're stealing these resources, resources that give life support to the most vulnerable citizens in our country, to buy themselves things they don't need. They're just buying wants, luxuries. They can do without a luxury sports car. They can do without a third house. They can do without an international account to hide money. But they steal money to buy bread, water, for electricity, for job creation for our youth, to buy luxuries, things they don't need. We have got a leadership that is preoccupied with how to manipulate tenders and fight internal factional battles. And this does not allow our leaders time to attend to service delivery issues. Whilst China's leadership is preoccupied with the vision of becoming a global leader in technology and overtaking the US to become the number one economy in the world. Ours is a leadership that is concerned with luxury cars, mansions, and wealth accumulation for themselves and their families. It's a leadership that cannot see further than their own stomach and their own families. This is a leadership that does not think twice about wasting over 700 million on endless dialogues to distract from failures and orchestrate the next make-believe story, to go around telling this make-believe story to the electorate during the next local government election. They want to come and say, we've had a national dialogue, we have listened, now we know what we need to do. Whereas our problems, we know. The Auditor General is always telling them about what is wrong in our municipalities. Communities are marching. Vigilante groups have sprung up because people want to be heard. But our leaders want to pretend that we don't know what is going wrong and what needs to be done. Canada's PM, McCartney's success so far is anchored by his credibility and integrity. Our political leaders constitute the greatest risk to South Africa's well-being, I must tell you, to the future of South Africa. The ANC and its splinter formations, for example, they own 70% of the political space, parliamentary seats as well. And the majority of these leaders, this is the problem. Here is the crux of the problem. The majority of these leaders are implicated in state capture, VBS, corruption, and many other scandals. And these leaders have not been held to account. Let me tell you, if you are being deceived to vote for tainted leaders, hoping that now they've got a different logo, they've got a different t-shirt and a cap, they will do better. No, they will never do better, because a tainted leader, if they become president, they are not going to appoint a competent and credible minister of safety and security, minister of justice, because they are preoccupied with self-preservation. They can't appoint people who will send them to jail. They are not interested in having an impartial public protector, just like we have currently. We don't have a credible public protector. We don't have a credible Hawks, credible NPA. The police that is somehow hidden the Parapara report. That is what we are living with. It is because of compromised leaders. They will always put themselves first. Now what you have is a collapse in the public and investor confidence because of this leadership. With business currently sitting on 1.53 million in uninvested funds. Now I want to talk to you about the power of love. Stroke passion, stroke motivation, the power of love in leadership. It is my conviction that the precondition to serve your country, to serve people, it is to love. It is the love for your country, the love for your people. Let me tell you an anecdote of a tiny woman. This tiny woman, her son was playing in front of the house, and when all of a sudden a very strong and old kind of sedan, vintage kind of a car which is very heavy, came out of nowhere and knocked the son of this tiny woman almost dead and trapped this child under the car. The tiny woman heard children that were playing with a child screaming, and she flung the door up and the gate open like a possessed person. She lifted a car that was just under a ton in terms of weight, and this woman was only about 60 kgs, but she lifted up that car, a car that was almost a ton as far as its weight was concerned. She lifted it. Why? It is passion. It is the love for the son that she was able to do that. That is what a leader needs to have. A leader needs to have the fire in their heart, the love for their country, the love for their people in order to serve. These leaders that we have don't have that love. They don't have passion. As a parent, you don't steal your children's lunchbox because you love them. When you love people, you won't steal from them. So these are not leaders. A leader can profess to be a man of the people, a pro-poor person. By their mouth, they can confess it, but not such in heart. A lion in a sheepskin. Those are the kind of leaders that we're dealing with. They want to pretend like they are for the poor, but they're stealing from the poor. So passion is the greatest motivator. You look at our Springbok teams, our cricket national team, Bafana, athletic team, you name them. They win titles because of their love and passion for the sport. But they also love this nation. They also love South Africa and their people. They play for us. That's why they play and leave everything on the field. That after all is said and done, whether they've won or not, they are able to say, I've given it my all. Those are the kind of leaders you need. South Africa must vote in leaders that truly love their country. Don't just consider political rhetoric. Consider character. And unfortunately, we have entered a phase in our country where character doesn't seem to matter. Let me talk about the Constitution. We have got a free-for-all syndrome. Our Constitution, truth be said, globally acclaimed as it is, it promotes the free-for-all syndrome. Let me tell you what I mean. This Constitution has got an idealism that is over the top. It has become an economic millstone around the neck of South Africa. The Constitution is littered with a shopping list of rights without accompanying responsibilities. But here is the real kicker. The Constitution guarantees free access to health, education to anyone who manages to set foot on South African soil. And this is fast turning our country into a martyr for the African continent. Coupled with poor immigration control, this is incentivizing illegal immigration. In keeping with the free-for-all doctrine, it is it our government is also providing grants to young people without conditioning these grants on young people becoming more productive. For example, linking this grant to community service, linking this grant to to a technical college where these people can go and get a skill so that they can transition. Our grants do not help young people to transition. They've become a permanent feature of South African life, and it's not sustainable. Governance structure, I'm not against grants, but they must be properly targeted. They must serve to empower, not to disable able-bodied people. Governance structure, we've got a governance structure. The three-tier governance structure is configured in a manner that defeats accountability and efficiency. And you have got a local government that is starved of resources despite being at the coalface of service delivery. Do we need provinces, or are they there just as a job creation, a part of the patronage system? To add salt to injury, the configuration of the ruling party, I'm talking about their alliance partners, the tripartite alliance, it does not help matters. The tripartite alliance, perhaps I need to call it the quartet alliance, because now there are four, no longer just three. I'm talking here about the criminal syndicate, which has become part of the alliance structure. It contributes to policy paralysis due to ideological contest. When I deliver courses on project management, I usually like to say anything with more than two heads is a monster. What I mean is that every head will be trying to pull in different direction, and what will happen? The monster will burst and self-destruct. That's why it feels like we're going nowhere, because if there's a policy, the president has to think, what will the SSCP think? What will COSATU think? What will say the RET, whatever say? Consequently, we're going nowhere slowly. Yes, the alliance was very good before in securing liberation, but post-democracy is a nightmare. The constitution also promotes the open, added to these weaknesses in the constitution, we've got the open border burden, where undocumented migrants are estimated at just under 4 million, and I believe it's even more than that. While the constitution's free for all provisions might earn us an applause internationally, there are no resources to support such rights. I've seen a very regrettable situation where, because of how our poor management of immigration, we have destroyed the likes of Johannesburg. The same, I've seen YouTubers, the same foreign YouTubers on our sister African countries. They come here, shoot very lousy places in Joburg, and they go and laugh about it. This is South Africa. When they go to other countries like Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, they serve us, use us as a benchmark. Senegal is very safer. It's much better than Johannesburg. And their fellow citizens are the ones that the ANC has allowed to run amok in our cities, creating no-go zones for South Africans and trashing those places. And in return, they come and laugh at us. That's how foolish we have become under the ANC. And the paradox of a free-for-all constitution, free services for migrants, is that whilst the constitution might seem to promote equality in theory, it fuels the draining of resources from the poor South Africans who rely on these free services. Now, let me talk about the economy as I move towards conclusion. The economy is a shrinking pie. Whilst our population has been growing at a rate in excess of 1%, the economy is growing at less than that. And they say numbers don't lie. The GDP per capita, for example, in 2011, it was $6,900, just under 700. In 2024, it's 6,100. It's a minus 12%. We are poorer as South Africans. The number of taxpayers, it was 7.1 million in 2011. Today, it is 5.5 million, the number of taxpayers. This is where government gets money. It is a decline of 22.5%. Grant recipients, we had 16 million in 2011, 16 million on the grant system in 2011. Today we've got 20 million, which is plus 75%. This is why what the ANC wants you to celebrate. Because instead of building South Africa strong, they want ignorant citizens who celebrate their own destruction. Unemployment. In 2011, it was at just under 24%. In 2024, unemployment figures come in at the rate of 33.5%, representing a 40%, massive 40% increase. Before I go to the business model of South Africa, let me talk about our brand positioning. We have positioned ourselves in such a way that we have become attractive. We are attractive to drug syndicates, human traffickers, and criminal networks. That's how we have positioned ourselves. How? It is due to the fact that everyone has a price in South Africa. You can buy the highest ranking politician in the country, from the president to an ordinary citizen. You can buy them, the judges, the lawyers. They are up for sale. That is why this is the kind of country that dodgy people want, criminal syndicate prefer. Our crime and lawlessness supercharges our attraction to bad characters. We also have an immigration system that incentivizes illegal migration because they know they'll get free services, they've got rights, they can march, they can blackmail us. Demanding things, for example, with free health services, education and health. No country in Africa, most of the migrants that are here, more than 95%, their countries don't offer these things, but here they demand them because we have got an unpatriotic leadership that thinks nothing of the country. And I'm not saying we must become detached, we must not be pledge solidarity with African brothers, but it must be done in a structured and sustainable way. And I'll show you how we can do it. Meanwhile, we are losing top tier talent and high net individuals who simply avoid us, who wants to come to a country that is lawless, collapsing infrastructure and all those kind of things. If there are people coming like that are coming, yes, I will take it. But my argument is that we could attract more people that can add value to the country. Had it not been for our bad positioning as far as brand South Africa is concerned. Now the business model. On activities, we have got too many things that the government is busy. Building houses for people, water, just a long shopping list. And this is spreading thin the ever weakening capacity of the state to do anything. So we are doing 1,000, 1 million things, but achieving nothing. Service delivery. The service level is very bad. That's why we've got protests day in, day out. We've got a collapsing healthcare system, water shortages, a culture of non-payment. This is our business model. That's why I'm arguing that this SA incorporated business model is not viable. We have got poor cost recovery as far as service delivery is concerned. Resources, and I want to focus mainly on the key resource, which is people. We've got the skills, a brain drain. People are going out who are able to make a contribution. While the bad apples are coming in, the good people are going out. We have got predatory public servants who have got pay-to-play schemes where citizens have to compete with foreigners who are ready to bribe to receive a service because they don't deserve it in the first place. Now, you've got cadre deployment, which is supercharging mediocrity and nepotism at public service level. Revenue, 18% of taxpayers are paying income tax, where the government gets its money from. SOE, state-owned enterprises bailouts, are draining the fiscus. Now, you have got a situation where revenue for the state, money that comes to the state is on the decline because of a GDP that is shrinking. Do you want to talk about wasteful and fruitless expenditure? It has become the norm, and the AG is always complaining about this year in, year out. That is why this so-called national dialogue is such a scam. Let me talk about the citizens, the clients. What we see, the key feature of the citizens, it's a massive drop in trust in our government. 72% of citizens don't trust government. The municipal debt is increasing because of a culture of non-payment. That's what happens when you've got a leadership that is not believable. People even stop paying for services. I don't condone that. We have to pay. Partnerships. Of course, there's very poor working relations between your police, and the civil society because the trust deficit, because of the shenanigans, the mafia state. Look at the tensions within the JNU. It is my contention that the last adult in politics was Mandela, our legend, Nelson Mandela. That is a man who had the maturity to run this country, to consider the interest of the country. Don't tell me about mistakes. Yes, he was not infallible, he was a human being, but he was the mature person. When it was time for him to humble himself, to go and attend a court case brought by Louis Lake, he did that, but for a strategic reason, to influence the nation. It was not just cowardice, or it was wisdom. He was building his capital, his credibility in doing that. So we don't have DA and ANC. It's kindergarten stuff that we see. It's grandstanding. Just running around, the DA running around, the ANC throwing a punch, the DA running around wanting to earn the respect of, to score points with the nation, with the voters, at the expense of the very same voters. So they inspire very little confidence. We don't have a strong social contract, which is not good for the welfare of the country. Lastly, the distribution channels. Our rail, road, and port infrastructure is a millstone around the economy. If we are able to manufacture and produce goods and services in the country, we need to be in a good position to be able to export those goods, since we're an export-led economy. So if you can't, the best way to make a country work is to make sure that goods, goods and services are able to move efficiently within the country and going outside the country. Now, my verdict is that the current business model of South Africa doesn't work and it's not sustainable. GDP, the number of taxpayers, employment is on the decline, whilst the users of government services are on the incline. Many people looking to receive from government, whilst the resources available to pay for those services are dwindling. This is a recipe for total collapse of the system. That is my verdict. The South African system is not working. The South African model is not working. We need to change course very quickly. Risk identification, political leadership, no doubt. They take the case. Number two, law and order is a big risk. Social unrest. Look at South Africa. You know, when a leadership begins to fail, you'll see a crack in society, because when the pressure, a rainbow nation, for example, gold is revealed to be gold by taking it through the furnace. Now, if our unity, the genuineness of our rainbow nation can only be revealed when we go under pressure. And now we are going under pressure. What is happening? It's whites against blacks. It's colors against blacks. When the pressure comes, you've got some colors saying these people don't come from, they're coming from the Eastern Cape, as if they're not citizens of this country. Yes, the Eastern Cape electorate. I am concerned about provinces like Limpopo, Eastern Cape, and Northwest voting for a party that has shown no interest in saving us. Hence, we have to move. We have to move to other provinces. We must change. If it doesn't work, we must change. If you're buying from SPAR and you're being ill-treated, you go to Checkers. Same applies to politics. And when you do that, SPAR will up their game. And then you can go back to buy from them. But when you vote people who are not performing, you are incentivizing. You are sending the message that you're okay. You love it. So, coup d'etat is a risk. Increasing debt to GDP, we are at 75.5%. This means that for every rand that the government receives, just under 76 cents must go towards servicing debt, meaning that few resources are left to pay for services, your healthcare and whatever, and to invest in the growth of the economy. Way forward, what should be done? Vision-led growth. We must have a clear vision. For example, become $1 trillion economy by 2040 or 2050, whatever is practical or realistic. Prioritizing mineral beneficiation indeed, not in weight. We cannot continue exporting minerals. By doing so, we are exporting jobs and factories where our young people can work. Renewable energy, we should be leading in this. We've got a manufacturing base, we've got the sun. We should be exporting renewable energy products, building a strong renewable industry to build our economy strong. Invest in AI-driven industries massively. I've seen Botswana coming up with, I don't know, they call them economic labs that they distribute around the nation. Those labs are going to support innovation. That's what you need. We need to scale up these efforts and be serious and stop stealing instead of delivering services. Values restoration, we need to revise our values, no doubt. Curriculum at school we cannot have this level of corruption when we've got a schooling system. The schooling system must begin to talk to these problems. We need to nip the problem of corruption in the bud. Tackle it whilst young people, while people are still young, even before they start to work. We need to ban compromised individuals from public service and our political system. We need to have continuous partnership with religious leaders and institutions to make sure that we rebuild the moral fiber of the nation. We need to exercise constitutional realism. The constitution that was made for the people, not the people made for the constitution. If it is not serving us, let's amend it. To put South Africans first and then supplement rights with responsibilities. And again, we need to be focused on priorities. Instead of doing 1,000 things, spreading the capacity of the state on 1,000,000 things, let's use a theme-based approach for implementation. For example, we can say these 5 years we are focusing on roads, rail, and port infrastructure, and get them done and dusted. Not to build roads and forever and rail forever. We need to focus all hands on desk and zero in on this. I'm not saying everything will come to a standstill, but all hands, all resources and partnerships must be focused on these things. Get them done and over with. Make sure that we free up, we remove the bottlenecks in our economy and move on to the next set of things, so that we've got a resilient and modern infrastructure such that for the next 30 years or 50 years, we don't have to talk about roads or rail infrastructure. We just maintain it. Immigration. We need medical insurance as a condition for visitors. We need strict enforcement of and funding for immigration agency. We also need to make sure that neighboring countries are built for citizens to come here. Actually, citizens of these countries must produce IDs. There must be conditions. You cannot just have your cake and eat it. We cannot just continue with this free for all. It is bankrupting South Africa. Now, we also need, the biggest problem is not about me being against, the biggest problem with South Africa on immigration is not necessarily that we don't need to pledge solidarity to our neighbors that are less well off. The problem is that, just like every other thing, it is being done in a very destructive and chaotic way. What is needed is to have a structured and focused systemic way of doing things. For example, think about us having a South African Agency for International Development modeled around USAID, where we deal with the problem of immigration at source, sponsor entrepreneurship, health programs, and food security at source. Tackle the problems that cause people to come to South Africa before they come, but also simultaneously deal with immigration. Make it clear that if you come to South Africa through the back door, you'll face the consequences. We also need to unlock investment. That 1.53 trillion, we need to have some growth pact where we can unlock investment from the private sector. Firstly, we need to stop treating the private sector as the enemy. Rather, we must see the private sector as a partner for growth, genuine partner for growth. It doesn't matter whether they are white or black, they are an asset to South Africa. We need to mobilize everyone. Stop dividing people along racial lines and make sure that we, even BEE as a policy that I support, we can use it to foster collaboration between black and white people, between urban areas and rural areas as well as townships. There's a way that we can do that. In conclusion, we need to make a very serious choice between sovereignty and collapse. Instead of making South Africa a martyr for Africa, we need to build South Africa strong. Africa's growth and development requires a strong South Africa, not a weak South Africa. Our current path, where people have got unlimited rights, unmanaged migration, unproductive spending, this is mathematical suicide. South Africa Incorporated research demands that we prioritize South Africans, link rights to responsibilities, condition grants on productivity. We must become Africa's anchor. A strong South Africa benefits the continent more than a bankrupt South Africa. We need to use the agency that I'm advocating for, South African Agency for International Development, to stabilize neighbors, not subsidize their displacement. That is my take. And our criminal justice, we need to make sure that we fast track the anti-corruption unit, the IDEC, independent, keep politicians' hands away from this institution to fight corruption independently. We also need to adequately fund the NPA. Imagine what the extra 700 million can do for the NPA. How much it can do to bolster and to elevate the fight against corruption and criminality. This is my take. This was a long video, but I felt it is really necessary to paint a very vivid picture of where we are and what is going to happen. Please, if this content resonates with you, subscribe, like, and share. Thank you for those who have subscribed. I really appreciate it. This is a battle for the soul of South Africa, the very existence of South Africa. This is the voice in the wilderness. I stopped voting the ANC before it was cool to do so. Maybe this must become my tagline. I stopped voting for the ANC before it was cool, before it was fashionable to do so. Vote wisely.